हमें देना दाता, मन का विश्वास कमजोर होला। दूर अज्ञान के हों अंधेरे, तू हमें ज्ञान की रोशनी दे। हर बुराई से बचते रहे हम, जितनी भी दे भली जिंदगी दे। बैर होना किसी का किसी से, भावना मन में बदले की बोला। हम चले नेक रास्ते पे, हमसे भूल कर भी कोई भूल होला। इतनी शक्ति हमें देना दाता, मन का विश्वास कमजोर होला। इतनी शक्ति हमें देना दाता, मन का विश्वास कमजोर होला।
Hello, good evening, everyone. This is Dr. N.H. Krishna, Founder, Chairman, Trustee of Chest Council of India from Davangere, Karnataka. Today, we are here for something which is near to the heart of everyone here. It should touch the heart of, I believe, every citizen in India, basically, because this is dedicated to the COVID warrior pulmonologists. You cannot express in words. Like, I'll just quote a brief example here, that the field of pulmonology was enlightened, like it got reached to many of them in the common sector public also. And people did understand that there is a specialty like this, pulmonology, and pulmonologists really kept their everything at thrive to fight with COVID, and they did the best. And today, the topic, as I told, COVID warrior pulmonologists, the real gods on earth, hear from their experiences. And now, because we are talking about India, let us also talk that we have everyone here from every part of India. Before I start introducing them, I would like to tell you all that we have started this webinar with 6,900 logins exactly now, already happening now. So that is a brave note that we started 6,900. That is, we take an innings lead of 6,900 and going into the second innings. Now, I'm very sure that we will surpass our previous record of 8,931 logins. I'm very sure we'll surpass that. Let me start introducing my faculties to you. Let me welcome Dr. Amita Nene. Actually, she doesn't require any introduction, and we have only handpicked only them here who are popular pan-India and who have done the best battle against COVID, and they have dedicated their time, family time, they're putting even their life at risk also. They have treated COVID. Amita Nene is from Mumbai. She is the HOD of Bombay Hospital. Welcome, Dr. Amita. Good to see you with all those musical instruments behind you. Musical lady, musical instrument, lovely.
Thank you.
Now, my second panelist is Dr. Vijay Kumar Chennam Chetty. We are going all the way now to Hyderabad. Chennam Chetty himself is the head of the department of Apollo, Hyderabad. He also happens to be the CCI webinar coordinator, and he's a terrific person. He has done so many webinars for CCI, and his service during COVID pandemic was versatile. Welcome, Dr. Vijay.
Thank you, Anna.
Let me go to another state now. Let us move from here to, let us go to the Madhya Pradesh. We have a national hero here. My name is N.H. Krishna, but actually Ravi Doshi should have been called N.H. Ravi Doshi because he is the national hero. He has treated the highest number of COVID patients all over India, and we will get to know what all he has done in a short span. But before that, let me tell you that Ravi Doshi, you have made always CCI proud. CCI is so lovely. Like we have you, our General Secretary of CCI, also National General Secretary. We are privileged to have you in CCI, Doshi. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Now let me go to Jharkhand now, where my favorite Dr. Atri Gangopadhyaya resides, and he is from Ranchi, and he has done excellent service during the era of COVID. Not only that, he's academically also fine-tuned. He's the youngest DNB trainer in Pan India, and his students have got fetched very nice results, followed his training. Atri, welcome you.
Thank you. My privilege.
Now, CCI, there are actually two pillars. If they call me as one pillar, the second pillar is definitely Dr. Narayan Pradipa. Dr. Narayan Pradipa is from Kasargodu, and it was during the first wave, Kasargodu was so much in limelight that we started calling as Kasargodu model of treating COVID. So his services towards the Kasargodu, Kerala, and the entire India, we cannot put it in words. Dr. Narayan Pradipa is the co-founder of Chest Council of India, and his services to CCA, to the mankind, is we cannot put it in words, like it cannot be explained. Welcome, Dr. Narayan Pradipa.
Thank you. Thank you.
Last
Thank you
but not the
for
least,
introduction.
let us go all the way to Assam, Guwahati. We have our handsome Kripesh Ranjan Sarma. He tried his luck in medicine. Had he ever tried it in Bollywood, he would have been definitely there. He has done a marvelous job there. In Guwahati, he has treated thousands and thousands of COVID patients. He also happens to be our Northeast Zone Governor of Chest Council of India, Dr. Atri being the East Zone Governor of Chest Council of India. And we are privileged to have you here. Welcome, Dr. Kripesh Ranjan Sarma.
Thank you, sir. I'm grateful.
Okay, so before I go ahead asking questions to each one of you, kindly apologize me. I apologize every one of you here. Why? Because you never knew that you were under surveillance from the last 15 days from my side. Anyone knew this? No one?
No.
None. Because without keeping you under surveillance, without knowing anything about your background, how can I put questions to you? So that is the scene. So I have collected enough information regarding each and every one of you here, so that my questions actually get related to your service and what all you faced. And because I'm a human, I'm not a computer, all those questions I have written and kept here, and I will be asking them in an order of appearance, one by one. I will start. The first question is Dr. Atri. Dr. Atri, it is known that you were giving teleconsultation to COVID patients pan India. And at one point, you had over 2,000 patients on teleconsultation. Can you guide us, like your colleagues, can you guide us how you set up this teleconsultation so that we also may benefit from your experience?
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Krishna. And when this lockdown started, we didn't even know what was wave. We only knew that lockdown, if you go outside your house, you could be booked or you could be arrested. And at that time, this teleconsult received legal recognition also. Earlier, there was a gray zone, but all of a sudden, there was a blanket recognition for teleconsultation. Initially, I live at Ranchi, and my school alumni, St. Xavier School Ranchi, DOCS alumni, it is present very powerful in Ranchi and Pan India. Someone from DOCS alumni basically approached me that they were stuck in Bangalore or Hyderabad, and their parents at Ranchi needed a consult, and they requested me to teleconsult because I could not travel from one place of Ranchi to another place to see their parents, and they could not come to me. So it started with this DOCS alumni, 1 grew to 2, 2 grew to 10. When the first wave ended, 10 had grown to 500. When the second wave came, 500 grew to 2000. So any doctor over here who is listening to me, who wants to take up teleconsult, I would always encourage, because it's a human touch between you and your patient. They are not a patient. They become like your family to you. That phone call from you at 2 a.m., that message from you at 3:30 a.m. is a lease of life to them. So start teleconsult with your school alumni and see what heights you can reach. I would always encourage all of you. It's very easy. It takes 6 months. After 6 months, you will be someone like a legend. This I can tell you. Thank you.
Very well answered. I think this will help many who are listening here regarding the teleconsultation. Now I will move to Kripesh Ranjan Sarma. Your question is, what is your difference in experience regarding the first wave and the second wave?
Yes. Already we have at the end second wave, and when COVID started, it gradually in the first wave it started gradually, and we had fewer patients. But in the second wave, we have a very rapid rise, and a large number of patients has been infected. So after end of the second wave, I had a very different experience of both the waves. Because in first wave, we have usually elderly people who are mostly become sick, and those who above 60 or 50, they require hospitalization, they end up in ICU. And usually they either they deteriorate very rapidly within a short span of period, or either they recover also rapidly. However, in the second wave, I have seen that more younger generation people above 30, they started becoming more sick. And again, in even a younger age group also, in the second wave, they have to be get hospitalized and require intensive care treatment. Again, the number of intensive care bed that we required in the second wave was quite double than first wave. And the most striking things that I have noticed in the second wave is the post-COVID complications. And I think that many people who have suffered from COVID has a long-term post-COVID complication, particularly in the second wave, which is little lesser in the first wave. So, those who have suffered in the second wave, even after 3 or 6 months, some people have long-term post-COVID complications, particularly like breathing difficulty or some psychological problem or other problem. So even I have seen a few rare cases of COVID-induced thrombocytopenias, which are very uncommon during the first wave. And so these are the peculiar differences I have seen during the two waves. And that is, I have shared my experience with all of you.
Thank you, Kripesh. Very much appreciated. Now my question goes to Dr. Ravi Doshi. Ravi Doshi, tell me, how did you feel being 5 months away from family in your own city, for your own city?
Really, sir, your research is very in-depth. Sir, first time in my life, like being in Indore and away from my family for 5 months was really something which was unplanned, but it happened initially when in March we started after that Janta curfew. Our hospital gave almost 1,000 beds to the government for taking up COVID cases. So they filled up so rapidly, and there was such a lot of confusion and everything going on that it was almost 24 hours working. And then I was fearing, if I go to home, what will happen to my parents, my children, because they are not going to be away from me, particularly my small children. So I was allotted a room in the hospital on the top floor, admin. So it started there. Then slowly, the Indore was the worst hit. We came number 1 almost in all over India with the affected cases in first wave. So means at one point of time, I had 1,100 cases in my unit at that point of time. So it was really not becoming possible to spare any time at all. Time just flew away. We started managing and then started understanding, first of all, because nothing was very clear about the whole thing. So almost looking at it, 1 month went off just like that. Then second, third, fourth month, training people, training juniors, your own faculty, bringing confidence into a lot of people takes time. Then a lot of patients used to come at odd times who were referred from other places. So that's how I could give a lot to my city, because I could attend them at even odd hours. And like Atri told, that teleconsult helped that odd hour period when you really don't get anybody. By being in the hospital, I could offer that service to my city people who were really distressed at that point of time. And then ultimately, when I myself got COVID in late September, so then after I became negative, then I went home. So that
See,
is
I
how
have a question for that also.
sir.
I have a question for that also.
Sir.
No, go ahead.
But that was basically it, sir. That hospital became my home. It was like a mini Indore, mini India in our own hospital only. So many new friends, that staff, all of my sisters, they were bringing lot of those idlis and the things which they make. So it was like food used to come from home. I had that feeling of being in residency again. It was really special. And then things started happening. Like initially in March, practically nobody knew anything about what to do, how to do. We started observing. Because I was there all the time, I was able to understand a lot of things, a lot of mistakes we made, but luckily we could rectify those mistakes also in time. We saved a lot in Indore. Means I was very thankful to my hospital management, the way that they took up this burden on themselves and allowed us to treat very freely. Because initially there was a confusion regarding what kits you have to wear, what masks you have to wear, the availability of those masks. Gone March, April and May, it started becoming very warm. So being in these PP kits for almost 13 14 hours, after that anyway, I don't think any of us can have the stamina to drive back 45 minutes home. So I just used to literally collapse there, and then again got up in the evening, wore the kit and go back to the hospital for the evening rounds and night admissions. So it was like purely doing a residency once again. But I am really for the city of Indore, which has given so much to me and my family. It was really a godsend opportunity, once in lifetime opportunity, that I could give back something from my own side to them.
So in short, what I understand from your what you told is you are fortunate to eat a lot of different snacks, different tiffins from different homes.
Yes.
So you enjoyed your stay there, basically.
The enjoyment was always there, sir. You can't do anything without enjoyment.
Okay. So, but Dosi, no second thought. You are a superstar in India regarding COVID, and we are really so much happy regarding this. And now I would like to tell you all that the logins have come to 7,600 now. Let's see for more to happen. My next question goes to Dr. Narayana Pradeepa from Kasargodu. Actually, during the first wave, what he did was terrific. In the initial pandemic of Corona, way back, Pradeep, 1.5 years ago, your place had highest number of COVID cases. Almost 50% of your Kerala state load fell on Kasargodu alone. How was your experience at that time, Pradeep? Can you kindly share with us?
Thank you, Dr. Krishna, for a wonderful opportunity, and thank you, CCI, for this for giving me an opportunity to present some of our experiences. Actually, before the Janata curfew, our 3 cases were reported from Kerala, and out of that, the 3rd case is from Kasaragod itself. So at that time also, we are little apprehensive what will happen next. But only one ray of hope was that we had Nipah virus outbreak before that year. So some like infection control, something we had a sensitization. Our staff was little knowing that this is an infective disease, then we have to do something. But our infrastructure, everything was we are not in that stage. And suddenly one fine day that cases started increasing, and especially one flight from, I think from the UAE has come, and most of them have tested positive, and we have to admit them in a government hospital. So that was one of the very toughest situation, where we had whole hospital has to be converted into a COVID hospital, and all other patients has to be diverted to the other hospital. Then the entire team has to be built, then including the right from the sweeper, canteen, everything has to be, everybody has to be like started understanding what is COVID, how we have to do. And as Ravi was telling, like statistics, what we require for tomorrow, we were like earlier we used to tell 1 month logistics we used to calculate. During the COVID pandemic, only logistics was only for 2 days. We were telling that the PPE kit is there for next day or max only another 2 days. Only that much logistics we used to calculate. Then what will happen after third day, we don't know. That was our situation. It was truly a learning experience, learning curve, being learning, teaching, and each other we used to help and we used to learn a lot. And our patients also taught us so many things. So it was a good time. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a wonderful sharing of your experiences. Now let us go to Dr. Vijay Kumar Chennam Chetty from Hyderabad. Chennam Chetty was fortunate that he received the COVID Warrior Award from the megastar Chiranjeevi, the famous Telugu actor. And Chennam Chetty, I have a question for you. We have heard that you have worked for 16 hours a day, received 300 calls a day. What's your motivation and what made you to work with such commitment?
Now, first of all, thank you for making me part of this wonderful webinar. Sincere thanks to CCI, and it is my proud privilege to take a part in such a very unique webinar. And to be frank, we are all unprepared. Not at all. We don't know what is going to happen, whether it is going to affect us, and if we get infection, whether we are going to transmit to our family members, friends. So that was a lot of confusion was there at that point of time. But having said this, I sincerely sat and probably I was contemplating how to raise to this occasion. Yes, God has always been there with all of us who sincerely worked during this COVID time. And my motivation and dedication have come from, I just realized on that day how much the government has invested on each doctor to make us as a physician. So I was just thinking how much hard work and then how much from ourselves and then from government as well. And a lot of patients or a lot of doctors, what are, we now have become from experience gained from the government hospital patients. That is one thing which we can never forget. So we learn from our experiences. Sometimes we have given trial medications on this common man, common patient, common people. So I just realized, so when we learn from the society, it is a unique opportunity for all of us to rise to the occasion, to serve the community at any cost. So leave about your life, leave about your family's life, it doesn't matter. It's a testing time, it was a testing time, and God has given enough strength so that we have raised, and I have, with that motivation to serve community, I could work really hard. And looking back, the previous days, exactly one and a half year back, it is all, though whatever the hardships we have gone through, I have gone through, I feel I dedicate all this hard work to my family members and God for protecting us, protecting me in particular during this tough scenario. And today, whatever I'm talking, I'm generalizing, I'm not, individualizing. The whole pulmonologist fraternity, which has worked together in these tough times and raised to the occasion and saved millions of lives, I dedicate my hard work to their hard work. Thank you, Anna.
Very well answered. So actually the take home from your thing is, even if the other, like who are non-doctors, would like to contribute and work during such a pandemic, even if they want to work also, they do not have that liberty to work. So only we are there who can take up this task in hand, and if not us, then who will? So fantastic, very well said. So when you have, if you have, imagine around 6 celebrities on a stage. So what we'll do is we will pick the superstar celebrity at the last to talk, because no, if we call the superstar celebrity at the beginning to talk, everyone will leave the hall and go. So now I am calling my superstar faculty to talk here. It's none other than Amita Nene. Hi, Amita. Your question goes here. When COVID started, there were so many fears about it. Did you ever get scared or thought of not creating COVID patients? Moreover, being a lady, you had to also take care of the home and your work. How did you balance both?
Thank you, Dr. Krishna. First of all, for conceptualizing this very special webinar and for making me a part of it with our very celebrated each and every colleague. Thank you. I'm really very, very happy doing this little Hatke webinar because I'm getting to talk, which I wanted to tell the world, but I never got a chance to. I'm happy you asked me this question because I'm going to be very, very honest. So I belong to a business family and there is no doctor in my family. I'm married to a doctor, but his side and my side, there are no doctors. I'm from a business family and my parents wanted me to be everything but a doctor. So the thing is that they always felt that I chose a very difficult life and I kept on missing out on all family stuff because always emergencies would keep on coming up. So when COVID started happening, both the sides of family decided for me for a change that I will not work in COVID. So the thing is that though I'm quite old, my parents, my in-laws decided and a decision was told to me that you will not work in COVID this time and you're going to spend time with us and you're going to take the much deserved break, which you really have earned in so many years. And for a change, I was actually happy. I thought COVID will get over in 2 or 3 months. And I thought I'll get the much deserved break and I'll spend time with my family, with my friends. I'll catch up on my music and dancing. So that was a plan. I never complained. I was happy that the decision was made. But then, we started preparing for a COVID ICU, the COVID ward, and obviously as head of the department, the hospital I was a part of the deciding committee. So the thing is that we started planning our COVID wards, our COVID ICUs. I was a part of each and every meeting, but I was kind of trying to be detached. But then 1 week before we were about to start, suddenly from inside, it was like, if I don't join COVID, I'll be cheating with my pulmonology, which is actually my second love. So I was like, I cannot be dishonest with myself. I can't cheat on my specialty and I have to work come what may. And therefore, I decided to work without telling both the sides of family. So first 4 to 5 months of work was really, lapa chupi, where people are calling me, I'm not answering, my family's why are you not answering the phone? And it was, oh, I'm in a webinar, oh, I'm doing a procedure, etc., etc. So I feel it was a nice 360-degree turn whereby I thought I will not work, but then from inside I wanted to work and I'm so happy I did. Because when I look back, I'm most proud of myself when I think about my COVID work.
Thank you, Dr. Amita. That is so inspiring to hear from you. Now, before I continue with my next question, I would like to tell you that our logins have reached to 8,300. My next question goes to Dr. Atri Gangopadhyaya. This is a bit soul stirring. I'll put it this because we remember that CCA also had a oration talk for your father. We understand that the sad demise of your father happened from COVID only. And I remember because to arrange this oration class for your father, master class of CCA, COVID, the day when he left us was Thursday itself. So we had a CCA webinar planned, but I didn't have his photo. I didn't know his details. So myself and Chennam Chetty and Vipul on a conference call, we talked to your wife. And while we talked to your wife to fetch his photo and details via WhatsApp to us, so that we immediately go ahead. We had only 30 minutes span for the webinar. And we hurried like anything. Chennam Chetty went ahead. He made a presentation there regarding your father. The shocking part was, I asked your wife, is Atri very sad? Is he crying? Is he taking rest, or is he where he is? Then your wife told, no, he's in the hospital. He's working still. Oh my God, how could you do this? You were working at that time. How did you muster the strength to do this, Atri? Please elaborate.
Yeah. First of all, pardon me if while answering this question, I break into tears because for a long period of time, I had been trying to postpone this pain. I had been trying to put off this pain. Uh, Whenever I used to counsel patients whom I knew they may not come out, they may not survive, it never occurred to me, what if COVID hit my family? What if it was my parent over there? In our city, we were maintaining two residences. At one, my parents were staying, at one, me and my wife were staying, so that from me, they do not contract the disease. Like Dr. Ravi had mentioned his fear. Unfortunately, still, both my parents contracted the disease after the second dose of vaccine. And luckily, my mother got well at home only, but my father did not get better. One day before my father expired, my father went into a coma. And something what my mother said, my mother told me that what has happened in our house has happened. It is just a matter of time. If he has gone into a coma from severe COVID, it will either be today or tomorrow. But he lived a complete life. He saw both his sons grow up. He saw a grandson. He actually saw you come in Doordarshan, come in radio, come in the newspaper. People recognize you in the city and due to CCI Pan India. So if today or tomorrow his heart stops, he will not be an unsatisfied or incomplete person. But all those 100 or 150 people out there, actually, I was running a COVID center of my own when there were no beds in Ranchi. The government had offered small hotels that we are going to give you oxygen and medicines. You all please turn into COVID center. And I took the dare. In 2 nights, we converted a hotel into a COVID center. I had 35 patients there. And I was also attached to the hospital, Pulse Hospital, where I work currently. There also, there were 20 patients under me. And those 2,000 people which you told on my WhatsApp. Every day, I used to get a message from those 2,000 people. We are praying for your father. You keep on doing the good work. And that day, what my mother told me, Atri, if something happens today or tomorrow, please remember, he is not going to come back. But those 150 people who are currently admitted under you, if you don't work now, they are also going to die. So who cannot be saved, cannot be saved. I cannot imagine my mother losing her husband and telling me this thing, that you should work now. You should save those who needs to be saved, because only you can save them. And maybe that gave me the strength that time carry on, carry on, carry on. Thank you. And sorry for the
Atri, even my voice is fumbling a bit now, hearing you. Salutes to your mother that in such a difficult situation, she decided and she opted that she told you, she guided you. Just go ahead there. This reminds me of Sachin Tendulkar's father's sad demise. When it happened, he kept on playing for India and he made century. And I pray God that may he give enough strength to your mother, to yourself, to your wife, to your brother. I know that there is no parallel thing which we can offer you for his sad loss, but may God give you enough courage to withstand this situation. And hats off to your mother for her courage, and you too, to perform during such a difficult scenario where family comes next and the society comes first. All those common people who are listening to this, the citizens, the common citizens, observe this next time whenever you raise your hand on a doctor. Remember the standing example of Dr. Atri Gangopadhyay here. Any doctor, what he does, he sacrifices his family life, he sacrifices his everything, and he is serving you. Do not shower flowers on us. Do not do anything to us. Respect us. That is what we deserve. Doctors during COVID times are nothing other than the soldiers at the border. So what respect you give to the soldiers, you should give the equal respect to the doctors. This is my appeal to the common public. My next question goes to Dr. Kripesh Ranjan Sarma. Dr. Kripesh Ranjan Sarma, difficulties in communication in treating COVID patient. Like we understand that any other normal pulmonology case, how you communicate with the patient. There is definitely a difference between COVID and non-COVID. So how did you behave with that? What's your experience?
Yeah, communication part is a very important part when we deal with every patient. Because communication is the key where we can make the patient understand, or where we make the attendant understand the patient's current scenario. Now, when the patient is in a COVID ward or ICU, they get separated from their family. They cannot see them till they are in that place, and also family remain very anxious. So that create a barrier. And secondly, even the patient is known to me for a long time. I entered the COVID unit with a full PP, with a, so many gadgets, so they also cannot recognize me properly. So that again create a barrier. So this makes a lot of difficulty in communicating with the patient, particularly when you reach the patient. Patient saw the doctor in a PP, his mask is also covered, only eyes are open. So it's really little difficult initial part to communicate with the patient, but gradually we have to make the patient feel good and understand that I am Doctor so and so, and I'm looking after you, and with a proper explanation, they keep on understanding. Again, communicating with the attendant become really difficult, because you have to communicate over the phone, and sometimes they may not be approachable, and many times the attendant will make a request that I want to see the patient, I want to meet the patient, even with the PP, and that is also practically not possible. So what we used to do is that whenever we we go for a COVID round, or during our COVID duty period, we used to make a call with the attendant, and we used to do a video call with the patient and the attendant, so that through the video call they can communicate. Even I had the experience that I entered the COVID unit for a few days without writing my name on my PPE. So many times patient could not recognize me, and later on said the doctor hasn't seen me. So next time onward, I kept this thing, my experience, my name, just I write my name properly on the PP, get on the front and back side, so they can recognize my name at least. So these difficulties has been faced during the communication part of COVID patient, because prognosticating the patient, and we have to show the patient that how the patient has deteriorated. If the patient is a normal ICU, the attendant can see that the patient has worsened, patient condition is bad. They can see properly that patient is on ventilator, his vitals are down. But in COVID care, this is difficult to visualize. So through a proper communication over telephone or video call, we have to maintain a communication with the patient, attendant, and also hospital staff. So this makes difficult, but we gradually with the process we learned in, and now things has been much improved, and patient or attendant could understand the situation also better.
Thanks, Kripesh. Perfect use of technology there. Like we used WhatsApp to connect so many CCA people. You used WhatsApp video call so that the relatives of the patients come in connection without touching them, without getting infected. That was very wise to hear. My next question goes to Dr. Ravi Doshi. Doshi, last year March, okay, when you treated and you cured the first critical COVID case, when nothing was known regarding COVID, how did you feel that? Tell me about your experience regarding the same.
Sir, that was a very a case which was referred to us from another hospital. The patient, after being referred to us, was diagnosed as being COVID positive. That is why we admitted her, because at that time, knowing COVID positive, we also might not have taken. But then she came to us. Then ultimately, the Janta curfew happened. Everything started, diagnosed as COVID positive, and she immediately went on the means BiPAP, because NRBMs were not so much in use at that point of time. So she went on the BiPAP, and COVID positive, admitted in a unit, and like what to do. Everybody from the collector to my hospital management to whosoever I know is like, yaar uska kya kar rahe ho, what are you doing, how are you treating? And that was a case which was under huge scrutiny in Indore. So we went about, we treated it as a severe community acquired pneumonia, atypical. We were working more on principles of H1N1 pneumonia at that point of time. There was nothing, there was no antiviral or specialized treatment at that point of time. Now she suddenly became sick. Now we can easily say that she must have gone into cytokine storm then. But then some brain waves happened. We started using pulse steroids in her. We somehow gave low molecular weight heparin unknowingly, means it was not very planned, not knowing at all about the pathophysiology of COVID. But somehow one or two things worked within. Like that lady was also a very iron-willed lady. She was not ready to go down that easily. So she used to cooperate with us quite a lot. Lot of my staff, practically all of my department, I was the lone person going there with a few of my residents who used to give her care quite a lot. And her family did not come. The family basically just left her in the hospital and abandoned her. Ultimately, we had to send a complaint from the hospital to the police headquarters and get their family called over there after, when we wanted to discharge her and send her home. It was such a situation that those 14 days that patient was with us, a big diagnostic query. Ultimately, after giving pulse dose of steroids on the third and fourth day, her oxygenation started improving. There were 1 or 2 days when we were literally about to ventilate her, but we didn't ventilate. We persisted with BiPAP. And one fine day, after 3 days of pulse steroid therapy, suddenly she started improving, and gradually over the next 6-7 days, we were able to titrate oxygen, and she was kept in the ward. But the problem was, when she came in the ward, there were no guidelines as to anything. When do you discharge such cases? When do you do a repeat COVID RT-PCR? So that whole 14 days, we managed her with whatever sense we could have, whatever we were gathering from CCI platforms, because that time lot of chat had started about this particular managing COVID at that point of time. So taking a lot from there, that is where CCI really helped quite a lot. I remember one fine day, there was a post in the morning from Chabra sir, then Nagarjuna sir, and even Vijay Chinnam Chetty sir had shared at that point of time some data. So we were able to successfully discharge that patient. And I'm so happy to say that she came on a saturation of around 55%. But when she went home on her own 2 feet, maintaining a saturation of more than 95%. And this I'm talking about April, the time when practically we knew nothing about it. So that gave a lot of confidence that all whatsoever it may be, but it is still conquerable, it is still treatable. And if we act in a very sensible and logical way, then I think even we can defeat COVID effectively.
Very good to hear that, because the early experiences, and I'm very happy that you quoted CCA here. See, because physically we cannot meet each other now at such scenarios of the pandemic. So physical conferences are out of question now. But CCA is the only body, I believe, 24/7/365. You can interact. You be at the ICU, you be at your home, you be at your hospital, anywhere you are, at your OPD. You just put a message in CCA and people will immediately rush in for your help with whatever they have. So CCA has done a miracle during the COVID pandemic. And this is definitely an important thing to be brought out. Dr. Ravi Doshi, I heard that you have a lot of collection of indoor namkeens at your house, because after so many people got cured from you, they sent you or they gave you so much of Indori namkeens. Is it true?
Yes, sir, it is very much true. Even the dicky of my car is loaded nowadays with a lot of stuff.
You told that you will send some to me via courier you did not send. Is it true?
Sir, you were on holiday, Kashmir and places, so namkeen.
I did not go. I did not go for a vanavasa. I went only for 6 days. And you told me since 2 months that you will be sending this. On public, before public, I am today appealing you. Please send.
Done.
Okay. So my next question goes to, again, it goes to Narayan Pradeepa here. See, I could understand that it was very, like, I was like shocked to hear this. The number of the health workers becoming COVID positive was almost nil in Kasargodu. How the healthcare workers were taking prevention those days? Dr. Narayan Pradeep?
Yes, thank you. The initial days, even we didn't had the PP kits or the personal protections, and we don't had much idea how we have to protect ourselves. And we were not knowing how we should go ahead, from where we should eat, whether we should go to canteen or because going to home is out. We are like completely in one place. So it was, we started with the training. Our team with the Dr. Narayan Naik and one nursing tutor, they started to training to the giving how to prevention of healthcare work. That because we have very limited resources, very limited specialists, and very limited people who can actually go into the COVID ward and treat the patients. The entire hospital is there, and so many patients were there. So training was started from even the day one to everybody. It included doctors, it included the nurses, lab technicians, it included even the ward boys and those people who clean and how to protect themselves. Then it extended to the ambulance drivers. Ambulance drivers were taught how to wear the PP kit, then how to use it, then how to bring the patients. Then the training also expanded to the canteen people, those who serve the food to the COVID patients. So, and we observed that healthcare workers are not getting COVID from the hospitals, where they get from elsewhere. Either it may be from the hostels or it may be from the places where they go for other like homes or anything. So we try to minimize the contact with the healthcare workers to other places, and we strictly maintained a very infection control measures in the hospital. So in the first wave, hardly none without the vaccine also we could save ourselves very methodically, very scientifically. That was one of the greatest, very good example or very great experience what we had, and we had a faith with our training team, and everybody practiced what was taught. So we had a good outcome at the end of the this COVID first wave.
Thank you, Dr. Narayana, for your valid information as how to safeguard yourselves. And now I'm happy to announce that our logins have reached to 8560. Our previous record is 8981. It could break any time. Let's see. Keeping up my fingers crossed. Now, Chennam Chetty, my question is to you.
Yes,
What
sir.
was your source of energy and how do you try to relax during these hectic schedules of COVID? Is it some peg system? Like what you have in your, the glass is not the whiskey glass, but what it contains inside, we don't know.
It's only milk, Anna.
No, the glass is milk glass, definitely.
Yeah.
So,
Three full glasses of milk daily. Right.
really, yeah? That's it?
That's it.
Oh.
No. So I always feel that if we want to motivate our patients, first of all, we should be very much charged up. We should always be positive, because always we have never seen such an amount of negativity or negative vibrations with our patients. Even when our cancer patients were dying, they knew that they may die at any moment. They have never exhibited such a negative vibrations. But with COVID onset, with a lot of patients, though they are stable with even CORADS 3, CORADS 4, and their severity score may be very mild, they used to have lot of fears and a lot of bad thoughts. Okay, they want to get rid of this negative emotions. So for which we have to keep ourselves very much relaxed and positive minded and be attentive. You may be wearing PPE kit, but you have to spend a lot of time with your patients. In fact, when the COVID rounds were started in the last April, May kind of time, so I was a lone consultant in the hospital, apart from critical care people and critical care nurse, who used to visit patient, put a hand on their shoulder, and then motivate them that don't worry, don't be panic, you will be all right. Yes, sometimes when the people are very much affected with severe ARDS, we may be losing them. We know that we might lose them at any time. But having said this, giving some positive infusion of thoughts have always paid off many times. And for which I daily in the morning before I reach hospital, so I used to do Hanuman Chalisa now. Okay, that has really worked, given energy, and throughout the next 24 hours. So, and second important thing is when I was doing rounds with PPE kit, I used to wear this Power Beats. I'm known for it. This is Bluetooth device. This Bluetooth, I used to, on one ear, I used to play my Sadhguru songs, Sri Ganpati Sachidananda songs. Yes. On one hand, there's a lot of hypoxia that I am experiencing. On the other hand, to recharge myself, some soothing spiritual music. Sometimes I used to hear Bismillah Khan Shahnai. And other important trick which it paid me is I used to take HCQs. Okay, HCQ has given me a lot of strength that it is protecting me anyhow. Yes, I'm taking HCQ, whether it is working. Yes, in retrospect, we don't have any evidence. But during that crucial year, 1 year period, okay, I was on HCQ as a prophylactic one, which has given me a lot of confidence, and ultimately I could deliver whatever it is needed. In fact, in retrospect, I feel proud that what was required and what I have delivered when I compared, I feel I have delivered more than my best.
So Channam Chetty's take-home message is be positive while treating COVID patient, but do not become COVID positive. And this is the first webinar of its kind where the moderator cannot tell to people that kindly answer brief to these questions. Answer only to the point. So this is the only webinar where I cannot tell, please kindly be brief while answering. Amita, a solid question coming to you, blockbuster question. Can you tell us about any one of your COVID success story that you are most proud about?
Okay, I'd like to talk about this. I'm happy you asked this question to me because this particular patient I will talk about, he is very close to my heart, the success story. So it was the time in June when there were reports coming that if there's a COVID patient, never intubate, because if you intubate, they crash there and then. So basically, I was in charge of this 33-bedded COVID ICU, and a part of it was COVID suspect ICU. So I finished my marathon 10-hour round, and I was just about to doff when the registrar came running saying, a bad patient is coming from casualty, madam, please don't doff. So I go in again, and this 38-year-old guy is wheeled in on 15 liters of NRBM. Saturation is 70% on room air, and he's gasping. So immediately we intubate the patient, and after we intubate, we send his routine bloods, we send an ABG, we do an ECG, and the ECG shows a hyperacute stage of inferior wall MI. We get our blood reports where the hemoglobin of the patient is 1.5. The ABG shows a bicarbonate of only 2. SGOT, SGPT are 4,400 and 5,500. The creatinine is 4.5. The lactic acid is 32. and the patient is only a 3-day history. So of course the COVID comes positive, but the report we come to know next day because there was no rapid antigen then. But basically the thing is, this was like crazy. We had to thrombolyze the patient. He was on ARDS protective strategy. He had horrible white lungs. He was on noradrenaline, high PEEP, etc., etc. He had to be dialyzed. So it was, so it turned out to be basically COVID-induced bilateral pneumonia, COVID-induced MI, COVID-induced hemolytic anemia, COVID-induced lactic acidosis, COVID-induced hepatitis, and COVID-induced renal failure. So basically, this was the worst patient I had had, and it was, of course, a great team effort. And on the 7th day, we successfully extubated him. So this was the first patient of COVID who we extubated, and he had everything that was wrong with him. And you know, he had this wife who had just come from the village. She didn't know anybody. He was a teacher. His wife just came from the village, not knowing anybody in Mumbai, and she would wait. And it used to be raining in Mumbai, so I would be in the ICU for hours together, and she would be waiting outside the hospital. That time, roads, even the doors were closed. Nobody was allowed to enter hospitals. You know, she would be waiting outside the gates in the rains with an umbrella, just waiting for me. And I would be like explaining her everything. And on the 8th day, we extubated him. And on the 13th day, we charged him. And they are still in touch with me. And I kind of feel that this is something that I'm just so proud about. You know, doing all this for a disease which we didn't know anything about, in PPEs, in the worst conditions. So this is a story which is very close to my heart. And every time I'm really tired and exhausted and I wonder, what am I doing here? You know, why am I in COVID? This is something that really gets me going.
Inspiring, Amita, really inspiring. It inspired not only us here, all those who are listening outside there, they should have got inspired by this. And it's such an inspiring thing that you could achieve that. You made it happen. I'm very sure you have more such success stories, but this one has stayed in your mind, near to your heart. Dr. Atri, coming to you, my question to you is, see, this question comprises of 2 questions inside. First and foremost, I know that at one point I heard via my sources that you are working 20 hours a day. And I also know that the daily changing guidelines of COVID do not give this, do not give that. Today, this is great. Tomorrow, that is thrown to the dustbin. So yeah, I know that in CCA and in everywhere, you were a brave man to come and fight with many of them in the panel. And you told to everyone that, kuch bhi nahi de to kya de, what should we give to the patient? Okay. You can't tell him that there is no medicine approved. No, sorry, boss, HCQs. No. You cannot take. Acha, then you come to something else. Ivermectin. No, it is not approved. Doxycycline. No, it's not approved. What is approved? HCQS. No, it's not approved. Then you send him back with how? Do not even give him zinc and vitamin C also, because overdosing, that also is a headache. So just give him assurance that you go home. Can you do that being a doctor? You cannot. And you are the one who came out and fought publicly in CCA regarding the same. Give me your views. I know that there are 2 things. One is experience-based medicine, other is evidence-based medicine. Without experience-based medicine, you cannot have evidence-based medicine. Now, we cannot send anybody back just like that. How did you manage during that span, Atri? It's a huge question, but it is an important question. Go ahead.
First of all, huge appreciation to Dr. Amita for the management you told us. It was like a fairy tale. Something like we dream that when I become a doctor, I am going to treat someone like this, blah, blah, blah. Wow. Wonderful. Okay. So what I want to say is that this 20 hours a day, sometimes, I actually wished that my day should be of 36 hours, because first wave, our city and our state, Jharkhand, had done relatively well, and other parts of India had borne the brunt. But second wave was a nightmare for us. Every day in the morning when we got up, we got to know that so and so of our childhood was no more. And it was like कि शहर को बचाना है, राज्य को बचाना है. I could not say no to someone, because whomever I was saying no was either a childhood friend, my father's colleague, my school alumni, my neighbor, my mother's kitty party group, etc. So I was feeling that my day should be 36 hours now, so that I could save my state, I could save my city. But after a certain period of time, it started taking its toll, and I was like becoming very weak. That was when my wife, Dr. Shravani, stepped in, and it was not possible for me to eat, write prescriptions, talk on the telephone, type on the WhatsApp at the same time. So what she used to do is, she used to make all these, I was liquid diet most of the time. She used to make all these nutritious things in various bottles, bottle 1, bottle 2, bottle 3, bottle 4, bottle 5, and ensure that every 2 hours I was sipping something and some nutrition was going in. And the night dinner generally stretched from 11:30 p.m. to 1:15 a.m. because in one mobile I was replying to the WhatsApp messages. On one mobile, maybe I was taking phone calls, and she was feeding me like a baby. Actually, she was, open your mouth, she put in something. Okay. And that is how she ensured that I got my nutrition at that point of time. So that is something I managed those 20 hours for a period of 20 to 21 days because of my wife's planning. She had planned this, that I did not fall ill at that period of time. Another thing what you told is, see, when COVID came, frankly speaking, when I was an MBBS student, Corona was an optional chapter in microbiology, in internal medicine. All of a sudden, for all of us at CCI, Corona has defined and shaped our career. And maybe for the next few years, I may have to do only post-COVID and pulmonology separately. So initially, I was also surprised that where will I get knowledge to treat this? And as usual, during leisure time, I used to turn the television, and I was very shocked to see that some cardiac surgeons are on the television giving lecture on COVID, that what drug I should give, what drug I should not give. I was stunned that how can I do this? Then I would quote a very senior CCI member, please pardon me, Dr. Agam Vora, and actually we are missing him in this panel today. Dr. Agam had given a message that he has amassed knowledge on COVIDology from WhatsApp University, and who would be starting a center of excellence for treating COVID. So WhatsApp was flooded with so much knowledge on COVID. Unfortunately, some of it was motivated, some of it was fake forwards. And at that time, you know, this CCI Thursday webinars came to my rescue, because the amount of work Dr. Chennam Chetty and his team puts in this CCI webinar, that no one talks propaganda over here. Whatever the people say is definitely their experience, but it is also evidence published or used somewhere. So CCI actually taught me how to treat COVID, how to treat COVID with evidence balanced with experience. And one thing which I had to revise was my MBBS knowledge of pharmacology, pathophysiology, and microbiology. That, see, the patient at a big city may be a number, but most of my patients were my childhood circle or someone from my parents' circle. So they were all related to me. So I could not tell them that, please don't take anything because there is no guideline for you to take something. Actually, I had to bank a lot on symptom-based treatment. And maybe initially I had to bank on the medicines which worked on my medicine. Like this teleconsult people, I always used to ask them, are you feeling better? Are you feeling better? Oh, these sort of medicines, A, B, C, D, E, makes you feel better. And in the second wave, when there was huge workload over here, I actually made up certain prescriptions. Prescription A, non-pregnant adults, mild disease. Prescription B, pregnant lactating adults, mild disease. Prescription C, serious disease, no bed available. Prescription D, you are admitted somewhere, no pulmonologist available. And those set of prescriptions, I circulated pan Ranchi, pan Jharkhand to all the physicians ki bhaiya ye karo, bachao, ye karo, bachao. So I owe my knowledge to COVID on your CCI Thursday webinars, which were actually backed up with proper R&D. Thank you.
Fantastic answer. Actually, I loved the entire part, but I loved extremely that liquid diet part. Because liquid diet, I am very fond of it. And even Agam is my dear friend and he is also very fond of liquid diet. But we do not dare to speak like you in public. And my wife feeding me liquid diet is almost near to impossible. So you only told liquid diet, nutritious, but you did not tell us which liquid diet was it. Well, we'll talk about it. Huh? Now, my question goes to Dr. Kripesh Ranjan Sarma. How COVID affected your personal life? This is actually an important question. Were you affected with your personal life, like emotional stress, with your family connections and all that?
Yes.
Kripesh?
Definitely. Because when the COVID started, like every human being, I also get scared. Because at that time we don't know what to do exactly, because how to take our personal protection is one thing that we have to learn, because we never wear PPE. Then how to maintain, because our enemy is invisible, so that tiny little virus cause all the havoc. Again, we have seen that people get infected from one another, so we got scared to reach our own people, our family members or friends. We thought that we should not get infected from other, and we should not also become a source of infection to others. So in that way, this created fear and anxiety, and also a little bit of barrier. And we initial part of the COVID, we always try to keep myself away from my family members and friends. Also, I used to stay in a separate room in my house for a long time. Because when the first COVID case in the Guwahati was reported, that attended in my OPD few days back, and that came into media, because that time just first initial case of the was highlighted by the media so lot. So everybody got panicked, and everybody used to call me also. I also get a panic at that time. So I used to isolate myself in my house for a long time, or try to maintain a distance, because I stay with my mother and father. They're also quite elderly people, and my father is also having COPD. So that also caused. So this definitely has our social or personal life has been affected by COVID. Until now, also we're still in a semi-lockdown phase, where from 5 o'clock we have a complete lockdown in Guwahati. So again, our social life has been, or interacting with each other has been also affected. In fact, inside our hospital also, we got very few personal communication or chai pe charcha with our colleagues. It has been also completely limited. So this is how COVID has affected our life. But with time, we have to learn and we have to move on, because we don't know how long we have to live like this, or how many waves are yet to come. But hope by the grace of God, we'll overcome this. We have to keep our mind strong. That is the main point I want to highlight.
Thank you, Kripesh. I think the feeling is mutual here. All the pulmonologists will agree that how they have devoted their time span to the profession alone, and the publics, whoever are watching this, non-doctors, they should understand the whatever the doctors they have served to you. Look at their amount of dedication, what they have done. Look at their sacrifices, and always respect your doctor. You respect your doctor, you fetch your respect. Dr. Ravi Doshi, next question is going to. Before that, let me tell you that we have a login of 8,805, 8805 logins, nearing to that mark, but it is struggling a bit now. Let's see what happens. We are with 8805 logins now. Ravi, coming to you, I will put all those astras to you at once now. That Brahmastra, Pashupatastra, everything once to you. Okay. Ravi, you are there?
Yes, sir.
Guard ready? Kavach ready? Okay,
Sir.
fine. So you were the first to use tocilizumab, baricitinib, IVIG in India. Do you think you experimented too much? And you were the first to start plasma therapy in central India. So can you elaborate us regarding this? And once I finish the third round of questions to everyone, I will try picking questions from Janta Janardhan also. They have also asked questions. So this will be my research question last to you. Later we'll go to the Janta Janardhan. Ravi,
Yes, sir. Sir, every experimental therapy that I had an opportunity to use initially is associated with a story in itself. We plasma therapy we started in central India. We had come to one point in COVID where basically patients were not responding to your standard therapy. And then we had 2-3 cases, and then we had started hearing about the use of convalescent plasma. We had a lot of discharge patients who were doing very well. So the moment we came across this particular technique, and we selected 2-3 patients, we gave them convalescent plasma because they were practically not responding. They were all young patients. One was a girl who had just delivered some 1 month ago. She had a small baby, but the lungs were white out. One was a young boy, student around 20 years old. His whole lung was white out, not doing well. So at that point of time, we selected them, we gave them plasma, and by God's grace, the first 3 cases in which we had selected for convalescent plasma, the second and third day of giving plasma, we achieved 100% radiological and clinical improvement. We were able to discharge them on the 5th day. They became so well. Coming to tocilizumab, there was a very famous inspector. He was a Thana in charge of one of the busiest police stations in Indore. He was admitted for us. He was admitted with us around 10th or 12th day. He went into a cytokine storm, not responding. So we asked around. We communicated to America. We communicated to Delhi. We communicated even in Amrita, Cochin. We asked about a lot of people. And then we came about this tocilizumab. So tocilizumab, then we also consulted rheumatologists from Indore locally, and we then gave tocilizumab. It was an off-label indication. We had to take approval from ethics committee of our college, and then we gave tocilizumab to this particular inspector, and we achieved clinical improvement, and he had a reduction in oxygen requirement over the next 2 to 3 days. This is the story of plasma and tocilizumab. Then baricitinib, again, it all started with one particular New England Journal of Medicine article, which was shared on CCI platform only. I remember very well because I had gone through that, and then I happened to give this particular data to our pharmacy people, and they told that we'll bring in baricitinib and let's see, because this was that phase around Diwali last year when a lot of COVID was not going very bad, not very good. It was a phase where COVID cases were having prolonged recovery. So that's why we thought of using baricitinib and accelerating the recovery. And then finally, you had also researched about IVIG. IVIG, incidentally, it was a very special case. It was the case of a postgraduate student. He was a fellow medicine physician referred from a nearby college. He was a third-year PG about to sit for his exam. And he went into COVID ARDS, respiratory failure. Incidentally, he was also on the heavier side of things, like myself. So he was very difficult to manage. We struggled with him. We used each and every molecule in the book. And then we were discussing quite a lot from Bhopal, Delhi, Bombay. We discussed quite a lot, and then we came across intravenous immunoglobulin. We used IVIG in that particular case, and I am very happy to say that postgraduate student has given his MD exam now and he has got very good results and is now a practicing physician in his own city. So each and every of this experimental therapy that we gave was after a lot of discussion, after a lot of research, and I'm just happy to say that like Vijay Kumar sir told that even I used to recite Hanuman Chalisa before giving experimental therapy. I very well remember reciting Hanuman Chalisa before we gave tocilizumab, because I was so afraid looking at the side effects of tocilizumab that I was literally I can't say कि लग रहा था कि I am doing something good for this patient or something bad for him, I don't know, but somehow things work. Maybe God is kind, and in each of these therapy, in the initial patients that we could give them, we achieved good results, and I am glad to see that they are now in very much common use now.
Dosi, don't you think that is the problem? That whichever drug which comes in the beginning works brilliantly everywhere, later it goes to dustbin.
Yes, sir. Because initially it's more of individual experience, I think, sir. Then is when the afterward critics start and a lot of analysis happens.
So, Narayan Pradeep, your question goes here. Stay prepared because this will be your last question from my side. Later we are going to the public questions. See, Narayan Pradeep, I did a nice research about you, and that told me that in the initial phase of the pandemic, you worked as assistant nodal officer, which included more of the epidemiological work, survey, etc. All that. Later, you worked as in charge of Corona First Line Treatment Center. And of late, you are working in COVID ICU as pulmonologist. So it's like no multi-role play, split personality disorder, whatever you call. So all the three places you have worked in different places, and you are something like no, you can tell us the complete extract. Please go ahead.
It was actually, I basically work for the government sector. So whatever the job assigned to me by my authorities or my head of from the government, I have to do. So initial work was like more of an survey there where we have to collect the data of the people who have traveled from each ward, each panchayat. We used to collect the passport number, patient's mobile number. Then we used to call them. Then we used to contact tracing them. It was a very Herculean task, and it was like more of a police work. Not at all. I was a bit confused whether I'm a pulmonologist or police or what I am doing now. That was one particular moment that has happened. But still, that work has paid us. We could could trace everybody, and it was a good enjoyment rather. Second part was like setting up of a CFL thesis that, as Dr. Atri told, one fine day some building was shown to us, and they told to convert it into a hospital, and that with as you know, from the government side, there will be nothing will be provided, and everything they will be showing some hotels, some hostels, some government buildings which is not occupied, not used or half built, and next day they were expecting like should be like functioning fully like a tertiary care hospital. So that was the very complicated thing. Then there was no water supplies, no bed sheets, nothing, and moreover it was a curfew or nothing will be open. So if you want like some mug, bucket, something for that buildings, you have to approach the revenue department. Revenue department has to give the permission to open the shop. Then you have to go and collect all the items from the shop. Then you have to bring here. You have to give to the patient, prepare everything, and suddenly there will be a pool of patients. We are expecting preparing 30, 35 beds. The patients will be like 70, 80 patients will be waiting for the admissions. So it was how we have to be prepared for the CFLTs, for Corona First Line Treatment Centers. Around 10, 15 CFLTs we have prepared in our district of late. Luckily, everything worked well, and later even the government has allowed. I think Kerala government has allowed the corona positive patients to go home and take the home isolation. So that was the major breakthrough. Before that, all the COVID positive patients has to be admitted within the very limited resources. So that was where it was really worked. Later, after that thing, and when the cases really started increasing more and more of critical care cases, more of COVID serious patients. Then I was deputed to the Corona Tertiary Care Hospital, where first our district hospital was converted into a Corona. Initially, our Kasaragod General Hospital was converted into Corona Hospital. Later, our Kasaragod District Hospital was converted into Corona Hospital. So, where entire one ICU was dedicated, complete ICU. I think around 30 bedded male, 30 bedded female, complete Corona ICU was set up, and we got all the ventilators, BiPAP, everything from the Prime Minister, PMGY fund, Corona Care Fund, and district collector, district administration, everything, whatever we asked, the next day it used to come. And we were even without very minimal human resources, we could manage. And our administrators were very helpful in that regard. They were kind enough to provide whatever help we asked. So it was, we started the Corona critical care team, then with anesthetist, one physician, one pulmonologist, we made the team, then we started rotating our works. And it really worked well. The problem was like, it is a Corona ICU, when you see the first bed ICU and finish the round of 30th patient, the first bed person will be died or expired. It was the very pathetic situation where when one day you have to declare 1 or 2, 3 deaths before you finish your rounds. That was the very bad day. One particular day when you finish the ICU one round, there will be 1 or 2 deaths will be there. But of late, cases have come down. Then we could manage with our limited resources. So overall, it was how the pandemic evolved. Same way, my work also evolved from a epidemiological work, later to the CFLT, and to the critical care team. Thank you.
That was a wonderful saga of a journey in COVID. And I'm very happy to inform everyone that we have reached 9,200 logins as of now. Keeping my fingers crossed. Let me see. This question goes to my dear Chanam Chetty. Dear Vijay, have you lost any of your family or friends due to COVID? And what's your thoughts? What you went through in such scenarios? How you handled it?
Thank God, Anna. Okay. Many of family members, many of friends who have encountered COVID during this tough time, I could able to pull them through. But the saddest thing is I've lost one of my wife's uncle due to COVID. So unfortunately, he lives almost 600 kilometers away from Hyderabad. The nearest tertiary care center was Chennai. So they took him there, and initially the doctors at that hospital also very kind enough to discuss with me, and then to discuss what to give, how to manage further. I sincerely thank entire team of global hospital doctors at Chennai for serving my wife's uncle. But having said this, saving hundreds of patients, critically ill patients, and I could not help my own uncle to bail him out of the critical scenario. It was so painful, so depressive, and for outer world, you feel like a superhero, but within the family, we could not help our own members. It was really taxing at the time. Whatever said and done, my wife Nandita used to motivate me. These are the tough times. Whatever you could do, despite your busy schedule, talking to a team of doctors there, adjusting medications, arranging medications, and giving help, giving advice was good. You could not do better than what you have done. So those were the motivating words from my wife, Nandita. But on this token, I would sincerely request entire audience who are listening to this, whenever some problem occurs during COVID, please approach us at the earliest. Not when the saturation is 70, 80 or 50 kind of thing. whenever you are hit with COVID, nowadays the magical bullets are available. Okay, like monoclonal antibody therapy, and it's working wonders. So if you present to us within 3-4 days, we can save you 100%. So, and on the other hand, immediately realizing the responsibilities that there are so many patients on WhatsApp, so many teleconsultations, so many inpatients under your care, close to 100 patients under my care. And I realized, and then one afternoon, I was totally in a locked in state kind of thing. I took some nice, white paper, and started drawing art. And that was so relieving at the end of 2-3 hours of intense involvement with my own self, with drawing and painting. So I could come out easily. But again, more importantly, responsibility towards the community and this humongous task ahead made me to come out of such frustrating events as well very smoothly. And always remember, my dear friends, and a stitch in time saves 9. Present to your friends at the earliest possible time after you get tested for COVID. That's my message, Anna.
Chennam Chetty beautifully explained, and it was initial part was tragic to hear, and later you elaborated it beautifully. Let us pray that the third wave does not come. Even if the third wave, if it comes, please advise your wife to start liquid diet treatment the way Atri Gangopadhyay is doing, because you are trying so many things, but there is only one answer. With only one of that liquid diet, every tension will go off. Believe me. Huh? You believe in everything else, you believe in this also.
Right.
Amita, coming to you, and I'm coming to you with a bundle of questions. Everyone is aware that you are academically completely keen academician. Whatever we post in CCI, you name everyone and you elaborately, detailedly you post in CCI. And you are also a popular DNB students trainer, teacher. You are a teacher. Along with this, everything, sorry parties, you also became COVID positive. So how all these role play at once?
Okay, so first I'll answer the first part. So actually there are 3 priorities I have in life. First is, like everybody has, family and friends. My second priority is my patients and chest medicine. And my third priority is academics, because I kind of feel really nice, and I kind of feel that when I teach, I make sure that good pulmonology will continue, and that's the tribute I can give to my specialty. So the thing is that initially when COVID happened, we were just so overwhelmed with work. We were just so overworked, and we were just trying to get hold of the land, under us. And then after 2-3 months, when we kind of knew what was going on, when protocols were in practice, then I kind of felt that now my students need to learn, and I need to continue my job. And then, in our hospital, we were not even allowed that in a room there are more than 4 people. So having actual academics was not just possible. And then that is a time, we actually started our Zoom academics. Otherwise, also throughout the year, we have 4 academics a week, every week for our students. So we started Zoom meetings, and the timings would be like 11 to 12 in the night, or 11 to 1 in the night. And so the DNB academics continued 4 days a week, which I'm very happy about. Secondly, the author within me was becoming very fidgety, and I thought I had to do something. And therefore, we decided to write bronchoscopy guidelines during COVID for our country. And I'm very, very happy to be one of the chairperson of the committee which did this. And therefore, it was nice, long distance Zoom meetings, and we took out the guidelines. Then I was a part of guideline making committee for conducting surgeries. So whether it was orthopedic, whether it was general surgery, what should be the ideal situation of the OT, etc., etc. So I wrote those guidelines, which I was very happy. And I was also a part of API committee, which wrote teleconsulting guidelines. So I was very, very happy that I continued despite all these things writing. And of course, we had so many webinars in which CCI actually took the initiative. And so it was great. I kind of remember with Dr. Atri, I did the first CCI webinar on COVID. And I think we were probably the first people to do a webinar on COVID. And just like I would have liked to continue academics. CCI also continued academics, and we had an academic every week, and so often many in a week. So I'm happy that all this continued because academics are important. And the second part was about me turning COVID. So actually, I remember I doffed out and I was just walking out, and a nurse of our institute just grabbed my hand. My father was gasping, "Ma'am, come in." And she just dragged me in. And I just went inside without a PPE, and I just grabbed a N95, and there was no shield because, we were inside the ICU, nothing was there. And I intubated the father, and I just knew I was going to be COVID positive. I just knew it. Anyway, I got back home, I isolated myself, and on the third day, I got high grade fever. And I didn't want to get admitted. Fifth day, I started coughing. I do my CT scan on the seventh day, and I got bilateral nice pneumonias. And then was the fight: get admitted and take remdesivir or be at home. Everybody told me get admitted in the remdesivir and everything. And then somehow I think COVID works on your mind. We had seen just so much that you get COVID, you go into the hospital. If anything happens, at least in Mumbai, BMC would put you in a bag and take you away. Family could never really see you. So I was just so scared. That is the only time when I've really been scared of death. When I got both the pneumonias, I was just so scared of being admitted in the hospital because I thought if I died, hospital would BMC would just take me away. And I so wanted to, when I die, I wanted, in Gujaratis, I'm a Gujarati, and when you die, they really dress you up. And your last journeys also, you look nice. And I also, so I don't know if you all can imagine what I'm talking about, but it was really a very, very weird feeling. Head just thinks of everything crazy. And I decided to be at home. And by God's grace, I became all right. But COVID is scary. When we have seen everything that's worse about COVID, when we get COVID, at least I imagined only that was really bad. So that was, I think, the worst experience in life. I thought having COVID was horrible. But having said that, 14th day of illness over, 15th day, 8 in the morning, I was back in my ICU, in my PPE, all set. And those 14 days are the only offs I've taken in my life during entire COVID tenure.
Amita, actually, that was so sad to hear, but thank God you came out of such difficult timings. And I remember I also had a telephonic conversation with you when you were positive, but you came out of it, and God sees to that more people remain protected in the entire world. Hence, He protects warriors like you.
Thank you.
Just a question here. How many of you were tested COVID positive? Do not tell me that I had a symptom. I don't know whether I was positive. I could have become passively infected, asymptomatic. Don't tell me all that. How many of you present here did become COVID positive on a RT-PCR report? One is Amita. Yes. And?
Not me.
Touch wood, negative, but I have tested almost myself 10 times. Swab negative up till now, touch wood.
10 tests negative up till now.
I also tested multiple times negative.
Good, very good. Kripesh?
Yeah, I did multiple time testing, but luckily negative till now.
Great. May God bless you all like this even further. Now let us go to the questions from the public. Before I'll take the questions, I will tell that there are few people congratulating. One, Dr. Sushma Dugard from Nashik. Congrats, Samita Madam, for excellent management of very critical COVID-19 patient, she's telling.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sushma.
And Atri, you have one Kaushik Sen Gupta from Ranchi. I would like to thank Dr. Atri for working tirelessly in the crisis time.
Yeah, their whole family were my patients, and unfortunately, they were all at different hospitals. So basically, I was the bridge connecting them at that period of difficult time.
See, such are the stories we want to remember, right? Such affection. That's what we want to see. That's what a doctor earns. Now, let us go to a few questions here. There is a question from our own Mrutyunjay Mahendrakar from Nanded. Use of tofacitinib or baricitinib in your experience, how when you have used and how was the recovery? Did it help to prevent cytokine storm? I think Ravi, you should take this question.
Sir, these are two JAK inhibitors basically, which are used. They are oral drugs which can be given, commonly used in rheumatoid arthritis as steroid sparing agents. Now, you don't usually use them to prevent cytokine storms. They are given usually if your CRP levels are mediocrely high and the patient is not very symptomatic, you want to manage on an OPD basis, or there are strong contraindications to other cytokine storm agents like steroids, or it doesn't justify using toci. In that condition, you can go ahead and use baricitinib or tofectinib, but it is very limited indications. You have to use it for a very short period of time, monitor your CRP levels rapidly, and once your CRP levels are normalized, it is better to stop the drug and not prolong it very much. It is definitely not a drug used ki you give it and you will not go into cytokine storm. It's not like that. It is just used to correct mild degree inflammation.
Good, very good. Dr. Kirat Kaur Sibia, our favorite, okay, from in CCA. She is asking you, Amita, ma'am, how did you proceed to thrombolyze a patient with hemolytic anemia and HP of 1.5?
Yeah, so Kirat,
Very tricky situation.
Kirat, this was, actually it was crazy because this patient chose to come on a Sunday evening. And by the time he came inside, it was 10 in the night. And actually speaking, we hemolyzed the patient even before the hemoglobin came. So we didn't have to really think about this because the ECG was done straight away. And we saw hyperacute phase of hyperacute changes in fetal MI in the ECG. And the patient was thrombolyzed immediately. And then the report of hemoglobin came as 1.5. And so that was it. Luckily, we got the report after we thrombolyzed the patient. And at the same time, I would also like to say that normally under normal situations, we would have actually taken the patient to the cath lab and done a PAMI and all. But this patient had come in June, and that time, before the entry in the cath lab, you required an RT-PCR, which we actually still require, and the patient came to us as a COVID suspect. So we could have not even done any, emergency angioplasty or something.
Thank you. Thank you for your answer. See, there are hundreds and hundreds of questions here. The moment I look at the screen goes and something new is appearing. So I will not be able to take everybody's question here. I will just go ahead seeing what I can do the best at the immediate instance. Well, great webinar, Amita, Ravi, CVK. What do you foresee in the future which might change treatment and outcome of COVID? Radha Munje from Nagpur. Anyone can take.
Hello, Radha ma'am. Thank you for watching our webinar, for listening to our personal experiences. Lot of anticipation. I hear some betting also is going on regarding third wave. When it will come, whatever. What I learned from these two waves were that this too will pass. This virus is something very nasty, and maybe this virus will be a watershed in human history, like maybe the world wars were. This virus is mutating very fast, creating new nuisances. But what I saw is this virus is basically playing havoc with the immune system. So if we can promote a healthy way of living, if we can go to prescribing rationally, taking care of comorbidities, I am sure we shall be able to treat our third wave patients better, whatever may be the varied presentations or varied complications they have. We still don't know what may be the magic bullet for the third wave. But these simple things worked when there was no treatment or no vaccine. These simple things worked in the first and second wave, and they are going to help us there also. And yes, the doctor needs that family support, emotional support, society support, so that we can perform during that time also.
Thank you. Let me announce you, we have crossed our records and it is 9,200 now, number of logins. We have crossed our previous record of 8981. 9,200. Kudos team. Kudos. Now I will take this question to, yeah, okay. The moment you look at a question, the next moment it's not there. Hmm. Okay, there's a question from Amit Prakash Darira from Pune. Sir, many patients after receiving tocilizumab are admitted with sepsis. All cultures come sterile. How do you treat? Should they be started empirically on higher antibiotics, gram positive and negative both, along with antifungal like amphotericin B? How do you approach such cases where patient is febrile, urine pustles, and cough with bronchoria with sterile cultures? How helpful is B-galactomannan and BD-glucan there? Chanam Chetty, will you go ahead taking this?
Yes, Anna.
Okay, go ahead.
So, first of all, patient who is having spikes of fever and patient who is in sepsis, whether to start gram positive coverage or gram negative coverage. Predominantly, sepsis component in COVID is not because of any secondary infections, at least initial 10 days or initial up to second week, unless a rampant use of antibiotics have been used while during treatment of COVID. And this, please check the procalcitonin levels. If the procalcitonin level is normal, and definitely we can conclude that there is no gram negative or gram positive bacterial sepsis. That is very important. Coming to beta galactomannan, galactomannan is a very important marker, particularly if we do it in serological serum blood specimen. So there are fair chances that false positive galactomannan assay can be there, particularly in situations like where the piperazine tazobactam have been used in the initial scenario and other cephalosporin uses. So having said this, if the ball galactomannan is more specific, and unfortunately we don't have at many centers doing a facility of bronchoscopy unless there is a pulmonologist available. And in such scenario, sending ball galactomannan and clinical correlation, radiological correlation, all is very, very important to label that whether the patient is suffering from invasive aspergillosis or not. If collectively there is a radiological opacity which is in favor of invasive aspergillosis, clinically patient is not doing well, spiking fevers, there's fair chances that you can attempt treating such patients with appropriate anti-aspergillus management, particularly voriconazole. Having said this, it is very, very important to prove what fungus is there. Is it Candida? Is it Aspergillus? Or is it mucormycosis? Because treatment hugely varies from species to species. That's it, Anna.
Thank you so much. Actually, we are running out of time. We are nearing 9:45 now. And the happy news is the logins 9,500 now. Wow. New record all set. We submitted our previous this one to Guinness World Records via Dosi, usko bhul jao. Now you take this 9,200 logins.
Done,
See,
sir,
it is
done.
impossible, in a conference, physical conference, can you imagine 9,200 people sitting?
No.
So thanks everyone for your love and affection towards CCI, and my special thanks to Kaustubh, Team Cipla, Vinod, Vipul. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Puneet, thank you. Without you guys, we couldn't have done anything. We know this a wonder kid. Kaustubh is a great organizer. Thank you, Team Cipla and Team CCI and everybody who has got so much of love and faith in CCI. We are going now to the almost, it's like 9:45, and my liquid diet is waiting for me since long. That is the reason why I'm ending. It is not because of the force of any panelist here, because liquid diet cannot wait. You can wait. Now, I request everyone here, it's a different thing what I'm telling you today. It's not a take-home message. Give one message to the society and public from your side. One sentence or two sentences, everyone here. Let us start with Amita ma'am.
Okay, I just want to tell all the non-medicos who are listening to us, I just want to say that at the end of the day, we are also humans. We also have family who love us a lot and who we also love, and we want to live happily with them ever after. Despite that, we've chosen to put our lives and their lives in risk so that we can save you and your family. We want to be available for you all the time, but when we are inside COVID, we are not accessible. Rest of the times, we are responding to 3,000 plus WhatsApps, responding to phone calls, and also seeing non-COVID patients. So we are there for you. We will always be there for you. But if there is a delay in we getting back in touch with y'all, then please do understand. Please make an excuse for us. We want to be there for you all the time, and we will. But please appreciate and respect, and we will do even better with all the more vigor for you. Thank you.
Amita is telling everything correct because, I'm the chairman of Chest Council of India, and my phone calls itself, they will not pick. Amita, Chennam Chetty, Atri. I don't know whether to show that they are very busy or to keep a control on me. So patients, you should understand, when I am suffering, then you should cope up with the situation. Vijay, tell me, man. Cheppandi.
Yeah. To all my friends or audience who are watching this wonderful webinar, thanks for joining. But remember, COVID will not last forever. But next 6 months, 1 year, we don't know. Some people predict this entire decade will be a decade of COVID. But to be honest, there are a lot of variants, there are a lot of mutations that's going to happen in the virus. So that's why please be socially responsible and don't be reckless and careless. If you are careless, you, instead of putting yourself at risk and your family at risk, you are putting doctors, you're keeping doctors and then healthcare sector in risk. And after experiencing the second wave, it is very, very difficult to experience similar wave in lifetime. Please, हाथ जोड़ के पूछ रहा हूं, please be more social responsible and save our country.
Thank you. Beautifully explained. It was like hearing a motivational dialogue in the movie. Especially Telugu movie, yeah? Kripesh, bhai, aapka sandesh.
Yeah, my words are that prevention is always better than cure. Since we know COVID may last for long, we don't know how long, there may be third wave or may not, whatever it is. But we should always try to follow the preventive measures like wearing a mask or proper distancing or cleaning our hands, because this will not only prevent COVID but also other respiratory infections also. And for public to know, because once I have seen that whenever there is a number of cases goes down, people become very irresponsible, and that's why we're having this problem repeatedly. This thing. So I request that at least people should understand the gravity of the situation, and then they should maintain the proper norms as the guidelines has told us, because these are very simple things. Nothing extraordinary, but this has to be just followed. And another thing I would like to say that doctors are not God. Doctors are like a normal human being with special qualities to treat diseases, and they have some special qualities. So don't treat us as a God. Just treat us like any normal human being with normal emotions that we have. That is also a request to everybody. Thank you.
Very well said. Very well said. Indore is called as the heart of India because actually, geographically also it is situated in the center of India. So from the center of the India, the radiance, let it come out now. Ravi Doshi, please, a message to the public.
A message to the public is just coming from the heart of me, my fellow pulmonologists, all my colleague doctors who have served our patients. Let there be any wave coming, all our hearts will just sing one song. किसी की मुस्कुराहटों पे हो निसार, किसी
Good, good.
का दर्द मिल सके तो ले उधार, किसी के वास्ते हो तेरे दिल में प्यार, जीना इसी का
का
नाम
नाम
है.
है. Wow, 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 wow. What more you can tell? Adbhut, 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 Adbhut. Atri, your views please from Ranchi. And because only two more are left to give their views, I request you to tell even people regarding the vaccination here.
Okay, 3 messages. First, acknowledgement. My school alumni docs who actually made my teleconsult go global. I am currently giving teleconsult pan world to certain countries due to this school alumni. Next, local players who actually helped me reach superhuman status for those few days. Berlin Hospital, the COVID care center which I ran, Pulse Hospital where I work, Mr. Manav Mukherjee and my clinic Cure and Care, who helped me 150 patients, 200 patients every day at that period of time. Probably if these 4 pillars were not there, docs, Pulse, Berlin and Cure and Care, the second wave would not have ended in Ranchi. These 4 people were with me to end that second wave. Secondly, my message to fellow doctors, juniors listening to here. This was a once in a lifetime opportunity for me. I was very scared. My wife is a very big devotee of Bhagwan Sri Krishna. She taught me this bhajan, Achyutam Keshavam Krishna Damodaram, and I made it a habit of listening to this to be as many. It was like my bedtime lullaby kind of. I used to play this in a loop to get to asleep, and this gave me a lot of strength. Find a point that instills you strength. If you need help in setting up the teleconsult, I am always there. If you need help in starting academic programs over Zoom, DNB students, MD students, if you're in practice just for sharpening your training, I am always there. Reach me. Third message to patients out there. The second wave ended prematurely because of penetration of vaccination. The third wave may not come if there is universal vaccination. I lost my father after 2 doses of vaccine, but I will never blame the vaccine because I served in the second wave probably because of the 2 doses of that same vaccine. So get the vaccine, man, get the vaccine. Secondly, this is the right time for everyone to have a family pulmonologist. Once that wave hits, as Dr. Krishna complained over here that, yeah, I did not pick his phone calls, I admit. During if the wave comes, we may not be able to field your calls. This is the right time to get a family pulmonologist to make sure that at that point of time, he or she picks your call. If every member in your house has a mobile phone which costs over 10,000 rupees, then I am sure you can afford a pulse oximeter for every member in your house, which does not cost even 1,000 rupees. So if you have a family pulmonologist, if you are vaccinated, if you have a personal pulse oximeter, you are ready for the third wave and nothing will happen to you. Okay.
Thank you, Atri, for the valid input. Actually, I could see you half while you were talking because no, I was observing that you can also drink publicly in a straw like Ravi Dosi. I will take that in my next webinar. So when you drink in the straw, people will not make out what you're drinking. And I'm starving. I'm thirsty still now. Thank you, Ravi Dosi, for enlightenment. Dr. Narayan Pradeep, can you please tell me one important message to the society from your side?
Please unmute, Narayana ji, please unmute.
COVID positive and COVID negative. If you are negative, you may become positive. If you are become positive, you may become negative. So don't worry about the positive negative status. So don't throw away the family bonds. We have seen so many people abandoning, so many stigmas attaching with the COVID. So nothing is like it is a disease. You take just as a disease, get treatment and get cured of it. That's all. COVID positive, COVID negative. Don't worry too much. Positive will become negative, negative will become positive. That's all. Take care of yourself with your personal protection, social distancing, mask and sanitization, and take vaccinations. That's all.
Beautiful, beautifully summarized. So let us call it a day from our side, CCI, to everybody here, to all the 9,200 present here. This will be even uploaded to the CCI official YouTube channel, which again you can watch anytime repeatedly, or you can tell those who missed to watch it. And this will be uploaded within 24 hours to CCI official YouTube channel. Subscribe to our channel and you can watch all our hundreds of webinars that were held till date. I am like wordless, because you know, when you have such a enlightened panel with you and when you have superstars around you, my job becomes less. And I thank from the bottom of my heart every panelist of mine here, Dr. Amita, Dr. Vijay Kumar Channam Chetty, Dr. Kripesh Ranjan Sarma, Dr. Atri Gangopadhyaya, Dr. Narayan Pradeep, Dr. Ravi Doshi, and thank you, Dr. Narendra, the president of CCI. Thank you for your leadership. Now, before we wind up, I would like to tell an important message to the society. See, it is very simple. You go to anybody, you cannot leave alone. Like if you have to stitch your slipper, you need to go to a cobbler. And what a cobbler does, carpenter cannot do. Carpenter, what he does, a plumber cannot do. So very similarly, in your lifespan, you need to get attached to different fields. Let it be buying an electrical good or going to a hospital also. The other places, you do not act rash. The other places, you do not raise your hands to the doctor. The other people, any other sector is not affected by this. Why particularly this behavior with the doctor? See, it is not, we have lost our own family members. If I were to be a god, no. If Atri were to be a god himself, he would have made his father leave. So I understand that our own family members are not out of this. We can lose anybody, we can survive many. We have made many to survive. That number has to be watched, not we lost few. And I will tell you, remember this, you should have faith in your doctor, because only when a doctor makes a patient better, only more patients will come to him. It is not that he makes a patient to fall sick, fall ill, that then more will come to him. Trust your doctor and trust your doctor, help your doctor, support your doctor. Give him a free mindset where he can apply the proper medicine at the proper time. If you handcuff him with stress around him, tensions around him, phone calls, influence and all that, the ultimate sufferer will be the patient, nobody else. And during the COVID pandemic, I'm telling you, it is not ended yet. Third wave may come, may not come. It is in your hands, the public's hands, that it will come or not. It's how you behave. SMSP, social distancing, masking, sanitization, vaccination, SMSV. So think about this, have faith in your doctor, support your doctor fraternity, understand their sacrifices, stay with them. We will definitely stay with you. We are there to stay with you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for your presence, and thank you so much for all your fantastic contribution to everyone here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Krishna sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for the wonderful moderation.
So wonderful meeting, sir.